Well, hey everybody, welcome back to another session of our, government contracting lab sessions. This is our lab. It's also today we're going to be talking about small business certifications. If you are working on your small business certification, we're going to cover that. If you haven't started yet, we're going to, hopefully clarify a few things so you can kind of get started as well. And then for many of you, this might be a new venture in going to the certification side of things, but certifications open doors for you. So that's what we're going to be covering today. This will be about 30, 40 minutes talking about certifications. In the last 20 minutes or so, it's going to be AMA, Ask Me Anything time. So if you have questions around certifications, we'll address those certifications first. If you have questions outside of small business certification, we'll address those as well as much as we can towards the end of today's session. So with that, let me share my screen. Okay, let me know if you can see my screen. Are we good? You guys can see my screen?
Yep, you're good now.
All right, spectacular. So this is lab session again, and lab is your time. I want to start by talking about the history of small business certifications. And I want to see who knows who this man is. Anybody know who this man is? Nobody? All right, anybody from the DMV area? Oh, yeah, he's from Maryland, so you should know him. But this is Black History Month, and I love talking about my heroes in the community, heroes, especially, the African-American community. Congressman Parrent Mitchell, that's who this is. I call him the father of small business certifications, and I call him the godfather of the 8A program. So Parrent Mitchell was part of the civil rights movement. Eventually, he went to the war, came back, part of the civil rights movement, and then he realized that, to really make change, you have to do something about it. So he applied to attend the University of Maryland, the college campus. They turned him down. He sued the university, and so he was the first African-American to attend the main campus on College Park for the University of Maryland. Eventually, he ran for office, became a congressman. He lost multiple times before he won. And then when he got to Congress, he founded the Congressional Black Caucus. And he said, the way I really make change is by giving people access to money. So he started championing federal contracts to help with the African community. So as he started putting on some of those initiatives, he said, you know what? All communities that are disadvantaged need these programs here. So the work that he did led to the 8A certification program, led to the women's certification program, led to the service disabled certification program, the service SDVOSB, led to all of these small business certification, whether it's federal, state, county, cities, or commercial. A lot of it goes back to what this man did, Congressman Parrent Mitchell. So that's why I say he has made more millionaires in America, especially in the African-American community, than any other person. It started off with giving 10% of federal contracts to minority-owned businesses, and then it's expanded to many, many different things. I do have an article here. If you want to read the whole article about Parrent Mitchell, feel free to go to this article. I'll put it in the chat area. He's my hero, so I'm inspired by what he's done. And for many of you, if you have time, please read this article about Congressman Parrent Mitchell. And since this is African American Black History Month, this will be perfect timing. But let's continue. Now, let's talk about money. There's lots of market opportunities out there. You've got the NBA, which is about $10 billion market. You got the NFL. This weekend is Super Bowl. Clap your hand if you go into the Super Bowl. Any Super Bowl party you guys going to? I'm going to have my own Super Bowl party at home. Just wife, kids, family. But if you go to Super Bowl party, it's happening this weekend. $19 billion for the NFL. The music industry is at $32 billion market, but set aside opportunity is $48 billion. There's more money in set aside than these other industries here. Now, I'm not saying these other industries are not worthwhile. I say, hey, everyone wants to be like Mike to play basketball, or everyone wants to be Patrick Mahomes. Everybody wants to be like Jay-Z or Taylor Swift. But not everybody can be in those professions because there's so few people that can succeed in those industries. Set-asides, guess what? Everyone can do set-asides in terms of contracts. So everybody want to be like Mike? Who wants to be like Dave Stewart? Put in the chat if you know who Dave Stewart is. Let's give us some bonus points here. I don't know if Narissa is here to give out bonus points, but Narissa, are you here? Put in the chat if you know who this person is. Anybody? Nobody? Nobody knows who Dave Stewart is? Okay, go ahead, Devin. Who is this?
I just Googled him. He's basically an American businessman. He owns Worldwide Technology. Dude's worth $7.6 billion. It's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. So he is the second wealthiest African-American, African-American person in the United States. Robert Smith is number one. He runs a hedge fund. Dave Stewart is number two. He has more money than Oprah, Michael Jordan, Jay-Z, Tyler Perry. But nobody knows who he is. You have to Google him. He started a government contracting business when he got his 8A certification and then became multi-billionaire. Every year, his company does about $12 billion of revenue. He's worth about almost $8 billion. Since I did this here, he's worth about almost $8 billion right now. Everybody wants to be like Michael Jordan, but not everybody can be like Michael Jordan. But all of you can be like Dave. So I want to talk about certification. I want to talk about how you too can be like Dave, because anyone can start a business. You don't need to spend 22 years playing basketball to try to make it to the NBA. You just need to spend about 6 months, 12 months building your business in the government market, and you can build a government contracting company. This is Ashley Chen. She's done over $2.9 billion in government contracts. One of the most successful 8A companies. So that's about small business certifications. There's different types of certifications. There's 4 types. You got federal, state, counties, local, cities, commercial. These are the 4 types of small business certification. And let's talk about federal first. Federal, you got the 8A program. 8A is from the Small Business Act, Section 8A, A as in apple. And we just call it 8A for simplicity. It's for socially and economically disadvantaged business. Those are the 2 main qualifications. Most people think it's a minorities program. It's not a minorities program. Socially, economically disadvantaged. So how do we define social economic disadvantage? The social part means that there's been bias against you, either in business, in education, or in some type of in the free market enterprise. There's been some type of bias towards you, either because of race, gender bias, or some type of bias against you. So the first qualification is there's been some bias against you in society. The second part is you're economically disadvantaged, meaning that your net worth is less than $850,000. Your net worth, they don't count the value of your business. They don't count the value of your primary residence. So most people I know qualify as under the net worth. The social part is a little bit tougher to qualify. Now, historically, you can get into the 8A program If you are African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, or from certain countries, you are presumed socially disadvantaged. As of July of last year, now you have to write a statement to document how you are socially disadvantaged. And I do have a template for that. In fact, this would be a good time for me to put the template into the chat, and because you'll need this template here to help you to get your 8A certification approved. So if you look in the chat, there is a template that I'm putting in the chat. Use that to help you to write your 8A social disadvantage narration. The 8A program is a 5% set aside. And then you get SDVOSB, which is Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Small Business. It's a 3% set aside with DOD, VA, and civilian agencies. Then you get the HUBZone program, Historically Underutilized Business Zone. And then you have the ED-WSB. ED stands for Economically Disadvantaged. WSB is Women-Owned Small Business. And then you get other federal certifications, the VOB, VOSB, Section 3. Now, who's heard of Section 3? Section 3, right? You guys have heard of Section 8. But Section 8 is with HUD for Housing Voucher Program. Section 3 is for contracting purposes with HUD. So if you apply for the Section 3 certification, if you do property preservation, if you do renovation, if you do landscaping, if you do anything that can be tied back to HUD, administrative management, asset management, if you're an attorney, anything that has to do with HUD as an agency, you want to consider Section 3 as part of your certification strategies. SDB, this used to be a very good program. It's no longer strong. So because it's self-certified now, there's no verification process. And then HBCU-MI, the DOD has a 5% contract set aside for historically Black college and university or minority institute. So that's another initiative. If you're looking for 8A certification, this is where you want to go do it. SDVOSB, this is the link. These slides are available to all of you who are in the CCM class. If you are in this class and you're not part of the CCM, I will put the link to all these slides in the chat area in a second here. In fact, let me do it now. So let me go ahead and pull that up so that everybody have access to these links here. In fact, let me do this here. I need to save it as a PDF so it's the latest version. So when I give it to you guys have the latest version. All right, so while this is loading up, let's see if anybody have any questions about anything we've covered so far. Any questions about any of the certifications?
Yeah, I think me and Kenneth had a question. The first thing was you had said something along the lines of we need to give a letter basically explaining like why we're socially disadvantaged. And I appreciate the template. Thank you. If you said we're presumed socially disadvantaged if like we're Black or like of a certain minority category, do we also still have to give that letter if we are of like the presumed categories?
In the past, no, but now you do.
Okay.
Yes. So you need that template I just gave you. Mm-hmm. We actually have a long video on that. If you go to our channel, there's a long video on that there. So feel free to look for the video and then use that video to kind of help you. So, but yes, you do now. And that's because there was a court case last year where a woman business owner, she sued the SBA and said that there are certain things that that the 8A program, the presumption of social disadvantage, violated her constitutional rights. And so the judge in Tennessee says, okay, maybe the judge ruled in her favor, so they had to make everyone write the narrative now. All right, so I just put the slides into the chat area. So if you're looking for the slides for today and all these links, it's in there. All right, let's continue. So the checklist. These are the checklists that you need. I'm going to use one of these here as an example in a second to talk through things. But these are the links to the checklist for the different certifications that you're looking for. Today's lab, because of the time, we're not going to go through all the details of it, but I'll take one example and we'll go through some of those things there. So let's talk about the 8A. The 8A is the most comprehensive, so I'm going to use the 8A checklist as the example for today. And we'll take a quick look at what are some of the things that the government is looking for you as you're applying for your certifications. So you'll definitely need your stock certificates. And in the Gov Fast Track, if you go to corporatekits.com, you can order your stock certificates, you can order your operating agreement, your bylaws, all of that you'll need that. And so you want to use corporatekit.com. And that will allow you to get your stock certificate. You can use an attorney, but the attorney is going to charge you about $500 minimum to about maybe $1,500. You can come in here and order it with the binder. It's $39 for the paper, but if you order, I tell people order the binder, order the corporate seal. It's about $100. You can kind of get everything you need here. But you'll need this here when you're applying for certification. How you prove that you own your business? Yes, you need to be in the Secretary of State and the certificate organization, but you also need your stock certificate. So you'll need this here. Now, in terms of the number of stocks that you need to issue, in an LLC, it's called units. In a C or S Corp, it's called shares. Now, you may have an LLC and you take the S Corp or C Corp selection. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a true traditional C or S Corp versus an LLC. LLC is called units. C, S Corp are called shares. So you need to issue, my recommendation is some companies, they issue 100 shares. Some companies issue 1,000 shares. My recommendation is issue 1 million or 10 million shares. And here's the reason behind that. Let's assume that, Devin, you want to bring in a business partner later. You say, hey, I want you to be my business partner, and I'll give you 10% of the company. Well, if you only have 100 units or 100 shares, I'll give you 10 units. You're like, 10 units? That's it? It really represents 10%, but they don't see the 10%. They just see 10 units. If you have 10 million units or 10 million shares, you tell them, I'm going to give you 1 million shares in my company. Would this sound better? I'm going to give you 10 shares. I'm going to give you 1 million shares. It still comes out to 10%. But if you have 10 million and you give them 1 million, that sounds a lot better. They're like, oh man, Devin, you really believe in me. You really trust my skills and my capabilities. And man, I appreciate that. So numbers, optics, it means a little bit more. So I normally recommend when you're creating how many shares, choose either 1 million or 10 million. I necessarily wouldn't do more than 10 million because it gets too complex for you guys. At a minimum, 100,000 shares. Go ahead, question.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
Are you talking about 10 million shares for an LLC or S Corp?
Either one.
Or just a corporation?
In an LLC will be units, 10 million units. And the other will be shares, 10 million shares. But between, if you're not comfortable with 10 million shares, do 100,000 shares. But typically, like my company that I set up, my for-profit company I set up, I do 100 million shares. But again, that's because of certain strategies. But between 1 million to 10 million is a good starting point. So that's what you need. You need stock certificates. If you bought your company from somebody, you need a sales agreement. And if you run into some issues with these here, if you bought shares from someone, or if you're in that situation, you need to do what's called a member resolution. You call a meeting, you do a member resolution, and then you do you have to do a purchase agreement, and then you move the shares from one person to the other. So there's a proper way to do this here, because if you don't do it properly and you're trying to get your certification, they're going to throw your certification out. So if you have partners that you bought them out, or if you bought a company for somebody else, there's a proper way to structure all that. If you're in that middle of that, shoot me an email. Maybe we can talk about it in more details. I'll help you to navigate that there. Devin, you have a question?
Yeah, I actually ordered the corporate kit, and I'm trying to understand, like, particularly what is the purpose of it, because I do have like articles of organization online, like a digital version of it, and usually like they'll ask me for that. So I'm just more curious, like, what is the exact like usage of this?
Are you LLC or C Corp, S Corp?
LLC.
Yeah, so in the corporate kit, there's a section called operating agreement. You need the operating agreement. They're going to ask you not only for your stock certificates, but they're going to ask you for your operating agreement.
Okay.
And so what you want to do is you want to read through it. Now, in your operating agreement, or if you're a C Corp, in your bylaws, what you want to do is you want to go to the voting section. In the voting section, if you don't structure the voting correctly, your certifications get thrown out also. Still, person, are you the only member, or you have other partners in your company?
I'm the only member.
Okay, so yours is going to be a little easier, but you still want to look for the voting rights, because you might bring in partners later. So the way voting rights is set up, or the proper way to set it up, is this here: that the voting is done per number of units. Majority share makes the decision in the company, not the number of members, because members is an individual. So let's assume, Devin, you bring a business partner. He owns 10%, you own 90%, and he's a member and you're a member. So there's two people. And if the operating agreement is done by member votes, that means it's a 50-50 tie, and you're not really in control of your company. So with the SBA, this is especially true with the husband and wife team. The wife owns 51%, the husband owns 49%. The government is not going to approve your certification, because if it's a member voting against another member, that's a tie, 50-50. You as a woman don't really control the company, and so they're going to have issues with that. So that's what you want to look through. That's the biggest issue with your operating agreement or your bylaws when you're applying for certification. Make sure that it talks about the percentage of ownership makes the decision. And you have to own 51% or more anyways. And so if you tie it to percentage of interest, percentage of equity, then you're good. The buy-sell agreement, you don't need that. Most of you don't need that, as a small business. Now, if you start to mature, you do need a buy-sell agreement. A buy-sell agreement is like a business will. A business will, if something happens to this partner, what happens to the shares? If the main corporate owner, something happens to the person, what happens to the shares? If a business partner leaves, what happens to the shares? So all that is tied to your buy-sell agreement. So it's your business will that tells you how to do different things in the event of something major that happens to the company, whether it's a death, whether it's a change of ownership, when there's whatever the big situation is. In a LLC, you need the articles of organization. This is with the Secretary of State. You need operating agreement. and member resolutions about any changes, anything like that. Their member certificates. This is the stock certificate that I'm talking about. They want the front and back. If you are a C Corp or S Corp, you need the articles of incorporation. It's the same thing. This is with the Secretary of State. In a corp, they call it articles of incorporation. In the LLC, they call it articles of organization. Just different terminology, but this is found on the Secretary of State in the state that you're in. Bylaws for C Corp, stockholder, board meeting minutes. In an LLC, you're not necessarily required to meet on a regular basis, but in a C Corp or a S Corp, you are required to meet on a regular basis of the board of directors and the officers and so forth. So these are the things that you need. And there's a few other things, but I think I covered the key things. Now, let me talk about some deal breakers. These things are true if you're applying for the 8A program, or really any federal program. The first one is if you owe back taxes. You will not get your certification until you have a payment plan if you owe taxes. If you have any major lawsuits that can hurt your company, that can become an issue as well. So you want to make sure that you settle whatever major lawsuits that you have. If you defaulted on an SBA loan, that becomes an issue where you cannot get your certification. And so you want to go back and cure whatever loan that you have that is guaranteed by the SBA. You want to fix that or get into some type of payment plan or settlement. If you have a felony background, you cannot get your 8A certification. Misdemeanor, I believe, is okay. If your business revenue has been declining over the last few years, and you cannot attribute it with a reasonable explanation, then you won't be able to get into the 8A program. If your revenue is low, or if it's kind of up and down a little bit, you're okay. But if it's consistently going down, then you have to say, hey, the market changed, COVID hurt my business, and here's why. Here's the industry. Every company in my industry, there's been a dip in revenue. There has to be some explanation why your revenue is not growing or declining more so. So revenue is an issue for 8A certification. And then this is probably a major area that no one talks about and the SBA doesn't tell you until you apply for the 8A. If you have more than 70% of your revenue coming from one client, and the way they see is it falls under the regulations that you must have a propensity for success in the 8A program. And it's a very vague definition, but generally you want to have 3 clients or more, and no one client represents 70% of your revenue. If that's the case, 99% of the time, you will not be able to get into the 8A program. So a few of these things here are the main hiccups when you're applying for the 8A. 8A is the strongest, and the number one reason is what? Because of sole source contract. That's why you want to get 8A is the strongest when it comes to sole source, because historically that's how contract officers have been using. You can get sole source to women-owned, veteran-owned, HUBZone, but most sole source is done through the 8A program. All right, Kenneth, you had a question?
Yeah, so I researched a couple of certifications. I don't know if they were state level, county level. It may have been NBE, but something mentioned like an earnings threshold. With 8A, is there like a minimum? I know you said you can have fluctuation. Is there a minimum that you have to have as far as earning?
No, for the 8A, you can make as much money as you can without being a large company. So,
well, I mean minimum. So, like, let's say your company made $15,000.
No, there's no minimum.
Okay.
Like there was a lady that I helped her get her 8A. She her first year, and this was as a sole proprietor, paying to her as a 1099, but she it was to her, and then she had a sole proprietor business. It was a business, but a sole proprietor. It wasn't even an EIN number. First year was 10,000 in revenue. Second year was like 21,000. Third year was like 29,000, and we got her in the 8A program. So there is no minimum. But again, if you could do $1,500,000 and drop down to 100,000, that's more revenue than the person that did 30,000 in revenue. They may still decline you because your revenue is going down. But if your revenue is steady, or if it's up and down, or if it's going up in the trend, then you're more likely, or most likely, they're not going to have an issue with that. The other deal breaker for the 8A and the you have to be full-time in your business. If you're still working another job, that becomes an issue. Unless you're working a night job and you can explain to the SBA that, hey, I have this night job, but I build my business full-time during the day. And in that situation, you can get into the 8A program. But if you're working a regular day job full-time, they're going to decline your 8A application.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
I know it says on the website that it might take the SBA 90 days to process your 8A application. Does it usually come in like quicker than that though? Because I imagine sometimes I forget.
I've only seen that once in my 14 years of doing government contracting.
Seeing which ones? That it comes quicker, or
that it came in less than 90 days.
Gotcha. Okay.
Almost, especially now. So there's two periods when you're anticipating your 8A approval or your woman-owned, doesn't matter. When they're looking for the when you receive your certification. So there's two parts. The package preparation part that you put together, that could take you anywhere from 2-3 weeks to 3, 4, 5, 6 months. For example, if you're they're asking for your business taxes and you haven't filed taxes in 3 years. So now you got to go to your CPA. You got to say, hey, get these things ready. It's going to take them 2-3 months to get it ready. And then you don't have your corporate kit. You got to order your corporate kit. You need financial statements. You need, if you're applying for 8A, you need to have some type of business credit card, whether it's 3,000, whether it's 1,000, it doesn't matter. You need, because they look at your financial capability. If we award you a contract, you have no line of credit. How are you going to fund the project? So there's all these little things that's not on the checklist. I'm telling you things that's not on the checklist, but it is on the checklist. But so the first part is getting your package complete. That's up to you, but it could be anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. Once you submit it, it goes through the second phase. The second phase of it is it sits in a stack somewhere until the SBA review it. And then they're going to say, okay, Devin, you're missing this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this. That's called the rebuttal phase. So the rebuttal phase is, and they call it the deficiency phase. Well, they don't even call it deficiency phase. From them, it's called deficiencies, that you're missing certain things. From me, it's called the rebuttal phase. They're going to send you a letter saying, hey, you're missing all these things here. Because of that, we're not going to move forward with your application. You have 30 days. Typically, they give you 30 days to cure it. So you look at the list that they gave you. You say, I got that. I need to create that. I need to go and get my CPA to give me that. And so once you get, typically it could be anywhere from 2-3 items to 10-15 items. I've seen it, closer to 20 items. Now, some of those items, they're going to ask for financial statements, and you already gave them financial statements. Don't complain. Just give them another copy. And you never want to send in your original, right? Well, now it's an online portal anyway, so you're using online portal, so you don't have to worry about that. So if they ask for it twice, give it to them twice. If they ask for it 3 times, give it to them 3 times. Don't say, you guys are idiots. I've already given it to you. Why don't you just take the one I gave you? Yeah, just don't complain. Just give it to them again. So that's the second phase. First phase, it could take as long as it takes you to get your package ready. Second phase, it takes anywhere from the minute you submit to 3-4 months before they even review your application. Once they review it and you give them everything they ask for, then the clock starts ticking. Now they say the 90 days that they told you, Devin, on the website, that 90 days normally starts ticking the moment that they say your package is complete. While you're in rebuttal, while you're giving them documents, the clock doesn't start. Even though they say 90 days from the moment the package is complete, what I've seen is 6 months to another 9 months, 12 months after the package is complete. So the norm is anticipate anywhere from 6 months to 12 months before your 8A is approved. That's just reality now. But I do have a secret trick. You guys are in class. You guys want to hear the secret trick?
Yes.
This is how you speed up the process. So let's assume you submit, and this is in phase one, right? You go to the portal, create your account, submit all your documents. So in phase two, you're waiting for them to get back with you. 30 days go by, 45 days go by. At about 45 days, if you don't hear back from them, send them an email through the portal. Just say, hey, it's been 45 days, just curious to see what things are at. When 90 days come by in the portal and they haven't reviewed it, you want to send them another email. Hey, it's been over 90 days. Please review it. Give me an update on this here. And then if you don't hear anything back, then you send another email. A week after you send that email, if you don't hear anything back, then you go back and you send them a third email. You say, hey, I'm a little concerned about my application. I've got some opportunities that's coming up. I'm interested. I'm going after it. If I don't hear back with you in a timely manner, I will reach out to my congressman to step in to help me with this process. They don't like that. Then you give them about a few days, maybe a week's time after you send them that email that you're going to get your congressman involved, and you don't hear back. Then you go into the directory of congressional members, U.S. List of congressmen. There's a portal. There's a portal that director of representatives, and you come in here and you find your representative. Now, you find your representative, go with your representative first. Don't go with the senator from your state. Go with the representative, because senator, there's only 2 senators and they have less time to help you. Go with your representative that represent your district, and you tell them. Some of them have a portal. So obviously there's an email, there's a portal, and so forth, but you want to go to their portal. Sometimes they will have a portal. They say, hey, as your representative, please submit any concerns with federal agencies or anything that you have or any issues you have in the community. They normally have a portal, and you go there, you fill out the portal, and then you also send them an email. Do both. Send an email, fill out the portal. Phone calls, we usually don't do phone calls. And then when you do that, not your representative, but one of their assistants will reach out to you and say, hey, I just want to gather some more information about what's going on. And then you tell them what's going on. And then you say, I've emailed it I submitted on this day. I emailed them on this day. I've also emailed this day. I make this phone call to the SBA on this day, and I haven't heard anything back. And I'm a small business. My livelihood depends on government contracts, and I can't do anything with my certification because they're not processing my application. Then your congressman will say, okay, let me research this here. I'll get back with you. And typically that's how they're going to do it. And every congressman would do a little bit differently. But then after a few weeks, they will get back with you. Typically a week or two, they'll get back with you. And they will say, okay, we reach out to the SBA and this is what's going to happen. Or they say, okay, we researched it and the SBA responded back. Or they may came out, can you give me some more information? And then at some point, they're going to reach out to the SBA on your behalf. And when they reach out to the SBA does not like that because the SBA is notoriously understaffed, notoriously not great at customer service or citizen service in this situation. And what they will do is they will take your application, move it from the bottom and put it on the top, and then they'll review it. So go through that process. Now, again, if you submit it 45 days, don't talk to your congressman yet. Don't follow this process. Just as I illustrated for you, be patient with the SBA because they are there to help you, but sometimes they're notoriously backlogged. And so if the congressman feels that you've done your due diligence, you've been patient, you worked the process they will be more than happy to step in. But if you wait 45 days and you're just complaining, they're not going to be too happy about helping you as well. So that's my secret. I don't share that with everybody, but now you guys know. All right, let's continue. We
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Does new business with no clients and no income, no nothing, have a chance to get certified and apply with proposals for?
Yes. I love small biz with no history. Now, if you're a brand new company, there's only a few certifications that you can go after. And you can go after, at the federal level, you can go after the WOSB, the EDWOSB, or the VOSB or SDVOSB. The HUBZone is a little bit tighter, but you potentially the HUBZone, but the 8A, absolutely not. But the other certification, yes, you can apply for. There's no income or no revenue requirement.
Women operated was in that list, right?
Yes, women-owned. Yep, WSB is on the list. You can say we're a new startup, and we currently are working on getting revenue, and there's no revenue exclusion.
Thank you.
All right, so second type, state. State certifications is DBE. Every state has a DBE program. Not every state calls it the DBE. Now, the DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, sometimes they may call it the MBE, WBE, but most state calls it DBE. A few states, they have their own terminology, like Texas, they call it the HUB certification. Virginia calls it the SWAM. North Carolina calls it the SWOOP, statewide uniform certification. Again, check your state. All you have to do is Google DBE certification, put your state name, and somewhere on the first page, you'll see what to do. Or you can put in their small business certification with Hawaii, small business certification with the state of Illinois, and you will see which one they use. I would say maybe 85, 90% of them, they call it the DBE.
They're also, the DBE is transferable too. So if you, in my situation, I was in Michigan and I left Michigan, came to Wyoming, and everything is transferable. So,
yep, great point. They have what's called reciprocity, or if you actually move location, it is transferable. If you, like, for example, if you're in California and you also want to do business in Arizona, well, in that situation, you know, Arizona has their own DBE certification, but you can apply for what's called a, sometimes they call it reciprocity, sometimes they call it a easy form. And it's typically 1 or 2 pages long. And then because you're certified in another state, the easy form will allow you just to, you know, validate that you have the other certification, and then you have the other one as well. Small business certification.
Now, I was going to say, I think it's in Wyoming is called a Certificate of Authority,
okay,
which allows you to basically any foreign entity. So if you're not living or your company isn't stationed in that state, basically you'll fill out that certification of authority, which gives you authority to do business within that state. And everything else would basically transfer. It's almost like a registered agent.
Okay.
Can I ask, if you do the reciprocity, say I get like, because I have a New York LLC, I get my MBE in New York, and then I currently live in Maryland right now. So if I do like the reciprocity thing, does it also now have to go through like the 60, 90 day again, or does it usually happen a lot faster?
Generally will be faster, especially if you once you submit it, if you don't hear back in about 2 to 3 weeks, reach out to them, just saying that there's some pending opportunities that you're going after. And okay, if you do that, they tend to, whether, because you're ready to bid, right? If you say, hey, I'm ready to bid on some project, you just say there's pending opportunities, they normally will pull your file and process it.
Thank you.
Natasha, question?
If you fall under multiple categories, you can certify like my financially disadvantaged and minority and woman and minority and woman. Should you certify under all of them or pick the best one?
Good question. I will answer that as I finish out this year and summarize that, so that I'm gonna reserve the question to the end of when I cover all the certifications, but very, very important question. So when I finish, if I don't remember to talk about it, please bring it back up, Natasha. So there's county certifications, 14 counties, MFB, Cook County, Illinois is MBE, WBE, LA County is a CBE. Anybody know what CBE stands for? All right, Devin, you Mr. Google, you're gonna Google quickly, tell us. I'll save you time. Community Business Enterprise. Cities have their own certification. Atlanta gone acronym crazy on us. HAB, SB, FBE, APABE, AABE, Hispanic American Business Prize, Small Business Prize, Female Business Prize, Asian Pacific American Business Prize, African American Business Prize. So City of Atlanta has gone crazy. Chicago is MBE, WBE, VBE, BEPD, ACDBE. And then Los Angeles is SLBE, WBE, MBE. Just Google where your business is located, and then, or if you want to go after certain certification, just put in small business certification and put the county or put the city. Not all cities have a certification. Not all counties have certifications. Most of your urban counties and most of your urban cities have small business certifications. That I would say almost every major city have some type of small business certifications out there, and you just have to Google it. Commercial certifications. This is for your Fortune 1000 companies. They, in the commercial market, they call it supply diversity programs. In the government market, we call it set-asides. In the commercial market, they call it supply diversity manager or a subcontracting manager. In the government market, we call it SBLO, the Small Business Liaison Officer. So if you want to do your MBE, Minority Business Prize, you do that through NMS DC, or in Georgia is GMS DC. If you go to NMS DC, it will tell you every, like, Louisiana, Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, and one other states, they share one region. Some states have their own, but just go to NMS DC and then look for it, the different chapters in different states that way. And then for WBE, the best place is WeBank, the Women Business Enterprise National Council. The WBE is great. Keep this in mind. When you do the WBE through WeBank, they also can process your WOSB. They do not process the ED WOSB, but they will process your WOSB with the SBA. So you want to make sure when you do the WBE, make sure you check the box that you also want to do the WOSB. The government, you do not need to pay government, but for these commercial, you do need to pay these organizations a fee, typically a membership fee and an application fee. So it's typically, I would say like $350, and the membership is about $400. So about $700-800, for them to process your application. AABE in this situation, where City of Atlanta is called African American Business Enterprise, and this here is called Asian American Business Enterprise. So this is through the U.S. Pan Asian American Chamber of Commerce. For the LGBTBE, this is the Lesbian, Gay, Bi, Transgender Business Enterprise. This is done through the National Gay Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. Also the DOBE. If you have any type of disability, that's actually interesting because let me pull up the list. You guys, you look through the list, you say, huh? It's actually interesting. It's a good side note here. So let me pull it up.
If I have ADD, am I on that list?
Yes, you do. Number one on the list.
Get out of here.
Yeah, that's why I said, some of you guys would be, happy. So anything on this list, alcoholism, I'm gonna start drinking so I can qualify for for the DOBE. Not quite. And so any of these things, now you can't just say, I'm bipolar, and you can't just say I got cancer. No, they want there's a form, a letter that they will give you, and then your physician have to sign off on it, or they want medical records. So it's one of the two, either medical records or they want a physician, a a true doctor or some type of licensed professional to give you, whether if it's bipolar, that might be a psychologist. If it's ADHD, that might be a general practitioner. And so different things, you'll do it through that. Depression, diabetes,
So,
if you have prescription, those
question.
type of things. What was that?
So I had to get cataract surgery. Would that fall under blindness or low vision? Just a question. I know you're not a lawyer or whatever.
Yeah. If you go to their website, they actually go through the specific details for each. They don't go through each one, but they tell you that how do you determine if something qualifies, and it tells you the specifics of how to determine any of these things. Usually, I've never helped somebody go through the DOBE certification. There's only 500 companies that have this certification right now. This is a newer certification, but it is being used in commercial market. And so if you're going after commercial contracts, these are starting to become more recognized. But go to the website. The website is Disability IN. IN stands for inclusion. So disabilityin.org. All right, so let's wrap it up. For all of you that is in here, if you're applying for the 8A, there is an 8A business plan that you need to write at some point. Towards the end of your application, when they approve you into the 8A program, they're going to ask you for your 8A business plan. And so what I did was I took the form that they have and I converted it into a Word doc so that you guys can easier write your response in here. But what I did was I also gave you a template, gave you a example of an 8A business plan. So your logo, your company name, all of that good stuff, table of content. I should sell this here to you guys, but I love you guys. I want you guys to be successful. So I'm just giving it free to all of you guys. So use it. Take advantage of all these free resources that we have. So this is an example, right? So the first question they ask you is briefly describe the fundamental elements of your business. Describe what the business you are in, why, and so forth. ABC Enterprise of Atlanta, Georgia was independently founded by Mr. Smith or Mrs. Smith. And then you go into this here, and then you say, these are things that we do here, and so forth, right? And then you go to the next question. Question number 2, briefly describe when and how and why you formed the company. What they're looking for is they want to see if you have history, you have potential for success in the 8A program, that you have management experience, that you have some industry experience in what you do. So typically you want to say, I work for this company, I've been in the industry for 20 years, and I realized that I can be an entrepreneur, and so I formed my new company and so forth and so forth. But that's the general gist of it. List your short-term, long-term. So here's some example of that. Describe your company's major success, and then you kind of talk a little about that there. So use this as a template. And we do have an 8A review service. If you get done with it, you say, okay, you know what? Let me pay someone to help me review it to make sure that it's going to meet SBA requirements. We do have an 8A. We do have a 8A business plan writing service too. I usually write it, but I don't always have time to write it. So most of the time, I will just coach you through it and help you do it yourself. But if you want me to review, that doesn't take a lot of time. So I'll be more than happy to. If you just have the general questions, I won't charge you for it. But if it's going to require anything more than 30 minutes of my time, then because my time is limited, I do charge a fee for that there. All right, so we're at the end here. Let me see if anybody have questions about anything we're covering here. Edmund, you got a question?
Yeah, so I'm going after 2 RFPs, and I was wondering if how much do you charge just to review my my proposal?
If you have questions specifically about your proposal and like 1 or 2 specific area, I don't charge you for that. I just want to help you. Send your email and your question. But if you actually want me to read through the solicitation, read through your proposal response, then because that requires time. And so,
Right.
yeah, so if you want to do that, let me show you how to do that. If you go to our website, govassociation.org, and go to the store, there's a store in here. So anytime someone needs more than 5-10 minutes of my time, if it's 5-10 minutes, again, I'm here to help you. I want you guys to be successful. But it's gonna be a little bit more time, then you can come in here under the one-on-one support, whether you want a general coaching session or if you want me to review your proposal or anything like that. If you want me to review your proposal, come in here, book a time. Members pay $250 for the session. Non-members pay $500. If you're not a member, please become a member. It saves you money and all the things that you do with us. And then just buy this here. You'll get a link, book a time with me. If you're doing proposal review, make sure you send all the documents to me in advance. And then I will review it in advance so that when we meet, we can have a productive time.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
Abe, can you please answer my question about certifications?
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. Let me come back to that. So there's 5 types of certifications. Certifications is not going to guarantee you contract. Certifications open doors for you. That's the purpose of certifications. Imagine standing in line and you have certifications. It moves you to the front of the line for considerations for the opportunity. So that's all it is. Of the 5 types of, or really 4, you got federal, state, county, cities, and then a commercial. Of those 4 certifications, you want to get 1 federal, maybe 2 or 3 if you qualify, but at least start with 1 federal, whether it's either the VOSB, SDVOSB, or the women-owned, if you qualify for those. 8A is the strongest, but you want to get 1 at the federal because they open up federal contracts. You want the DBE, definitely do the DBE at the state. So that's 2 types of certification there. And then you want the main county and the main city that you are closest to. So if you're in the boondocks somewhere, then find the closest major city. New York, I love New York. New York is one of the most progressive in terms of working with women-owned and minority-owned businesses in New York. So New York has a very strong program. Not every city, counties, they have one, but it's not that strong. But New York is one of the strongest ones. So 1 county, 1 city. So now you're at 4 certifications: federal, state, counties, and city. And then you want 1 commercial certification, whether it's the WBE or the MBE at the commercial level. Choose 1 at each level, and that will, so anytime something arises in a certain level of government, then you have something to help you. If you don't qualify for all 5 areas of certification, then you want to find a teaming partner that have those type of certifications. Other questions?
But if I understand correctly, I'll just certify as woman-owned for all of them. Is that normal, regular?
Yes. As a woman-owned, you can do federal, you can do state, you can do county, you can do cities, and you can do commercial.
And does it make sense eventually to do 8A when I have certain business?
Yes, 8A is the strongest, and so at some point you do want to go after your 8A, but I will give you a word of caution around the 8A. All the other certifications, there is no time limit. As long as you are a small business, you can be in it for 15 years, 20 years. The 8A program, you can only be in it for 9 years, and once 9 years is over, it's over. Most of the time, it takes 1, 2, 3 years to figure out government contracting, depending on how aggressive you are. And so your first year, even if you have a long history of operating, you got 10 years of business experience, and you got good revenue, you still want to wait a few months, get acclimated, start to learn how to speak governese, learn how to write proposals. And then once you start getting a little bit footing in the government market, then apply for your 8A. Now, if you've been around for 20 years and you're doing $5-10 million a year, then start the first day you meet me, start that day. But for most of you, you want to get acclimated a little bit in the government market before you apply for your 8A.
Thank you.
All right. Who's Campbell Soup? Miss Campbell. Question. Is that you, Aaron? You have a question?
Yeah, it's my old Gmail. Since you use Google Meet now, it's my old Gmail account. And my maiden name is Campbell. So
Okay.
I wanted to ask if you could reshare the 8A letter and then the slides from here again for me, because when I switched from my phone to my computer when I got home from picking up the kids, it I guess
Sure.
wiped that for me.
Yeah, I'll give you the link to this PowerPoint, and then from that you get everything else.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes. So let me pull that up. Oh, it's in the chat. Let me just go back to the chat and repaste it from the chat. So might be easier to just do it that way. Let's see. All right. So while I'm looking for this, any other questions? So who here has won certifications already? Okay. Some of you. All right. Awesome. Who here has more than 3 certifications? Anybody? Nobody yet? Okay. Well, it's time to start moving on this here. All right, Aaron, I just put in the chat. So certifications are your door opener. If you don't qualify for any, don't be discouraged, because just like if you don't have past performance, doesn't mean you don't do government contracting. You find a teaming partner that have past performance. If you don't have certifications, find a teaming partner that have certifications. But what you want to do is you want to go and give them value. So for example, if I'm, Natasha, if I'm you, I go to a company, I say, hey, I've got 20 years of project management experience. I'm really good at what I do, but unfortunately, I don't have 8A certification. And we are women owned, and I love to team with you so that where I may be able to add value to your company in some situation, and there may be some situation where you can add value to my company. And most people, again, 70% of government project, federal government project require 2 or more companies to work in a collaborative manner. So teaming is normal. Partnership is normal. It's normal to work with somebody else. So definitely look for teaming partners where you have gaps, whether it's past performance, certifications, or experience, or anything like that. Look for teaming partners.
Do we have a couple more minutes?
Yes. Question. What you got?
So what's step-by-step instruction on getting acquainted with big companies like IBM or other companies who have been working with government for a long time as a minority or women-owned business?
Sure. I'll give you a few quick tips here. So the first is you go into your best friend Google and you put in here IBM Supplier Diversity Program or registration or program, or just Supplier Diversity is fine. Whichever Fortune 1000 company you want to work with, and maybe even Fortune 5000 companies, they have a supply portal also.
How do I know which companies are government contractors?
You go to USA Spending, and then you come into USA Spending, you go to
Got it.
Start.
No need to explain further.
Well, since you asked, I'm going to explain because
all
other
right.
people might want to know the answer. So you come in here and you put in here IBM, and then you hit search, and then you see if they're winning contracts.
Well, when you don't know which companies, you just look for winning contracts in your area, under your NX code, and then see which companies won.
If you don't know the company, you check the year, and you put in you don't put the company name. You just put in there the NAICS code. And what's your NAICS code?
Oh, 50. I don't. I have it written down somewhere. 1 second.
All right. So 541, 511 is one of your IT NICs. I'm just going to check.
Yeah,
them.
IT.
Yeah. So I'm going to use that. And so in 1 year under this one NICS code, they awarded 8,000 contracts. If you look at the time in one NICS code, they awarded $10 billion in contracts here.
Yeah.
So if you come here in the table, these are all the companies that's winning IT contracts here.
Mm-hmm.
And so for example, you see Booz Allen Hamilton, then you go back to what I said earlier, right? You go to, you come into Google. If you don't know where to go, just come in here, Booz Allen, Supply Diversity, and then it takes you to their portal here. I'm gonna give you guys a secret tip. This is not any of our class, but I have a friend who developed a platform called higherground.io. This is a supplier portal for large companies. She has a lot of large companies on here. So you will come in here and buyers are large companies, suppliers are small business like you guys. So you want to come in here, you want to register as a supplier. I believe it's free. For as long as I know her, it's been free. So there, I don't think there's a fee. She charges the large company to do this here. So you come in here, you fill out profile, and then you get, they match you with potential large primes that might be doing work in your industry.
That's pretty cool.
All right, that is it. If you have other questions, shoot me an email. We've got a lengthier class on certifications. It's a 2-hour class. Today is just more of a lab session. So hopefully a lot of you guys get good value out of it. And I will see you at another session. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.